I did a couple of videos where I talked about some things about the third generation Tundra that I'm not a particular fan of. There are a lot of things about that new truck that I'm not really intrigued with, and there are a lot of ways in which I think it's inferior to the second generation Tundra. There are of course some ways where it's superior to the third generation Tundra, but I don't think they're the things that people commonly think they are. Despite what people think, I don't hate the vehicle, I just don't like it for my own needs, and I think for people who want a truck for the reasons I want it for, it's not the ideal truck, especially when you compare it to the second generation Tundra, which offers a lot more in capability. This first video is going to focus on something I've talked about quite a bit in the past, which is fuel economy. The biggest criticism and most requested improvement in the new generation Tundra I heard was for improved fuel economy. As we talk about fuel economy, I thought I'd show a short video of my 2018 Tundra doing something the 2022 can't do. That is, hooking up to a tow hook and pulling a vehicle. Of course, I mean doing this from the front end and without shredding your bumper. So this is the window sticker for the twin-turbo V6 minus the hybrid, which shows 19 miles per gallon combined. That's with the four-wheel drive, it's 17 city and 22 highway. And then, of course, there was a great video into a headwind and a winter storm done by Pickup Truck Plus SUVs Talks Tim Esterdahl. Understandably, fuel mileage was affected and the Tundra only averaged 16.5 in that video. Of course, there was also a trip by TFL Truck that was fairly lengthy where they averaged approximately 18.5, but it was below the advertised number on the sticker. I haven't seen any private consumer post anything significantly into the 20s yet, so if you have, please tell us about it. Now, it just so happens that I took a fairly lengthy trip today with 400 plus miles, and I stopped at the beginning and the end of my trip to fill up. Now, about 90 to 95% of my trip was on the highway, doing close to 70 to 75, and here are the results of that. Now, as I'm traveling down the highway, you can see I've got my cruise control set. I'm traveling up and downhill a little bit, and here are some things I like to know while I'm traveling. My cruise control is set at 70, and as you can see right now, I'm averaging 18.1 miles per gallon, and this is probably at about 3/4 of the way through my 400-mile trip for the day. You can see my cruise control is set at 71 miles per hour, and I'm in a 65 and going up and downhill just a bit. Currently, I'm averaging 18.1 miles per gallon. And for the last leg of my trip that you see here, I went 142 miles. That includes city driving in both Warner Robins, Georgia and Augusta, Georgia, and we averaged 18 miles per gallon on that leg. I stopped at the gas station closest to my house and filled up with 22.67 gallons over the 413 miles traveled, which works out to 18.2 miles per gallon, darn close to the numbers we're seeing for the 2022 Tundra. So the first question is, why hasn't the 2022 Tundra posted better numbers so far with the V6 twin-turbo engine rated so much better on the sticker? Well, the answer has to do with simple physics. Newtonian physics doesn't begin to break down until we get to the quantum area. There's a certain amount of energy required to move a 3-ton vehicle and only a certain amount of energy available in a gallon of gasoline. Those physics are limited. Smaller displacement engine is going uphill, there's increased resistance. When it's going against wind, there's increased resistance. When it's under load, there's increased resistance. In all those instances, those turbos are going to be kicked in. The turbos generate a lot of heat. Heat is entropy. It's inefficient use of energy, which means when you're going uphill, when you're going against wind, these are actually becoming less efficient engines. So there is no magic fairy dust with small displacement engines generating more power with turbos. Essentially, it requires more fuel. Now, let's talk about what it might take for my truck to get the fuel mile per gallons that you're seeing there, because I realize that's not entirely usual. Well, there's no secret here. The formula is really quite simple. It begins with stock suspension, stock wheel size, and then what you would call the stock tire size. What I mean by that is I use a passenger tire designed for road use. It is not a heavy off-road tire with a lot of weight to it. It is not a light truck tire with a lot of weight to it because, of course, that isn't necessary for my half-ton to function. Furthermore, I use a very low resistance passenger tire on my truck. Now, if you're going to lift your 2022 Tundra, if you're going to add oversized tires, if you're going to use it under load, I promise you those turbos are going to be engaged, and I promise you you're going to see a significant dip in your MPGs. I realized I used some provocative language in some other videos like suckered and waste of money relative to this vehicle, and quite honestly, I did that with some intent. But I recognize we live in a very sensitive time, so in the future I will try to be more woke when it comes to my reviews. From now on, I will refer to you as the frivolous stimulators of the economy. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please hit like and subscribe, and please feel free to comment.